Thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day, and we'll do the same without wasting a single second of your time. Bada bing, bada boom, we go into the charts. Bitcoin getting up to that 886 level of the pitch fan that we've had priced in for quite some time now. Wait, what? It adjusted randomly. That was odd. Did I accidentally move it? So we got up to that 886 level. This looks like it randomly shifted, which it shouldn't have done. Oh, okay, going back. So this is the diagonal pitch fan we've had priced in for over a year that's been respecting some key levels for quite some time on our path to the upside. Got that bounce off that 618 down here at that 38,888 that we were looking at. Coming up now to the 886 level. There is a 50,948 point of control up here for this range up here. Do we see some sort of reaction? We have broken the 50K mark. All of these points of control in red are red on my charts is going to be point of controls for the volume. Daily ones will be purple. So if I have purple on my charts, that's what the lines will represent. So we have a potential of coming back to that 47K node here for confirmation after making a large run to the upside. Do we go up to that 50,900 region fatigue and come back down for support? That is entirely possible in this narrative framework and the diagonal pitch fan of coming back to the 786, or do we just poop the bed and come down all the way to 42K? What is going to happen in the coming days? One thing we need to look at first and foremost is the liquidity. What do I mean by liquidity? Well, people lock their liquidity into the charts to get burnt to a crisp by the market maker for not using a stop loss, and we get to see where those crispy characters are. So let's do it now. So in the last 24 hours, 54 million in shorts got squeezed and 20 million in late longers. So 74 million destroyed for Bitcoin.
Fatality.
Meanwhile, in ETH, you had 28 million in shorts squeezed and a bunch of alts. Sol, 7 million, 4 million, C, 2 million, 3 million. So a bunch of shorts in red over here. And in the last 4 hours, some shorts again squeezed on Ethereum and Bitcoin. In the last hour, some 2 million shorts in Sol and ETH and in Bitcoin. So let's go ahead and take a look at the heat map. Shout out to everyone here. Thank you for coming on in. So if we come to the heat map here, we were generating 120 million up at that 50,500 mark. It's now going down to 80 million as we squeezed up to it. They closed their position. Do we see some sort of acceleration? Let's go into the immediate 12 hours. We have 41 million up at 50,555. Some 23 million at 51,000. So they're generating some shorts here as they come up. People thinking they can be clever and snipe the top when it is not over. What do I mean by not being over? Well, if we look at the immediate, we have some liquidity to grab up here in this 50,700 region. It's kind of even Steven on the daily from where we're at. If you look at the weekly though, there's a spike down here at 49,410. So coming down to that 49,400, 420 region. And this entire range coming to 2.4 billion. This leads me to the open interest chart. You have 4.6 billion in open interest coming down to 4.6 as we have some net longs open into these bursts up from 48K. A lot of net longs open while the shorts are getting destroyed. Some shorts are opening here as well, but overall the shorts getting punished and closing out as we go up. Longs opening. So there's a lot more net longs open than net shorts as we come down here. Does this open interest get dropped Once we squeeze a certain target of shorts and this closes, then do they sharply pull back. You can see the net liquidations here. We've had 29 million in that burst up, 7 million in this burst. So we're getting less liquidations as we go higher. There's going to be one more spike perhaps and then come lower. So if we go to the higher time frame here, let's just go to a 6 month to see all of the liquidity. It's kind of threadbare up in this region. You do have a lot more down below. 3 billion at 41,795. Do they have their stop losses set up here? 46,191 has 2.15 billion. So do we see a healthy pullback at some point? That is the question. So let's go into the Binance chart. Binance. So what were we saying yesterday? So let's go back and hold ourselves to the flame. So one thing that we circled clearly was this 236. We said we were calling for a slight pullback, and we said it's false move Monday, so be careful on your shorts. If you honor this 236, you could be continuing upwards of 49K and beyond. And we have our key levels here that were written in stone from before this idea, and sure enough, we held that 236 at 47,865 and came higher. So the math is something to look at. Came above this volume node and bang to the upside, 5.17% to be exact. So let's go ahead and throw on our momentum and see what we can see from where we're at now. Link in the description for more. Invest in yourself if you have some gains. This is the Momentum Master indicator. We had this Bitcoin bottom drop mapped out from November 2022 before we knew it was a bottom at 15K, with the rocket ships on our indicator, the stochastic array, trend cloud, baselines, and more. Dynamic alerts coming to your phone. So if you are looking to stay plugged in and you don't necessarily want to trust a guru, you can trust the math and the indicator that's back tested. So we got let's go ahead immediately from the higher time frame down below. So we have the cross up event of the weekly negating the previous cross down that flashed and gave us only 2 weeks of downside down to that 38.8 region. So after this cross down event, we started to reclaim points of control, and now we're getting a cross up. Does this mean we get higher prices, even 53 and above? We still have some retraced levels on the math to come back to. The 50,700 will be an interesting point of confluence for me to see. We'll see how we do up in that region if we get there. There's all if-then statements. There are no guarantees in trading. There are no guarantees in life. So if we go to the 3-day time frame, the 3-day is 2 days away from closing, and you have a bunch of stop hunt candles in the sequence of things. It did some manipulation. This is just buy side stop hunting. Do you reach the end of this with this dot here? We'll find out in the sequence of things. Coming to a daily time frame. Oh, before we do that, let's look at the 3-day oscillator. 3-day oscillator has the money flow beneath the RSI. Does this mean the money flows up to the RSI, or are you going to get some bearish divergence? You're starting to see a lower high and a higher high on price action. Does the RSI continue higher or get pushed down to the money flow? Is this the rare occasion where the RSI comes down to the money flow, or are we going to get some burst up and some acceleration even higher on the 3-day time frame? 3-day cross down event, which we saw on December 15th, did give us a little bit of a pullback of about how much percent from that signal. It was about 10% from the signal, but from the top it was a good 21% pullback. and then we starting to get this cross up event. The cross up and cross down events of the 3-day and the weekly and these higher time frames do play out. The last time we had a cross up event was here in September. Granted, we had rocket ships down in the dumps here. That was an ideal long entry. How valid and how much more can it continue up in this region? Good question. So there are some false signals. We see cross up, cross down, cross up, cross down, cross up, cross down. So the cross up into fatigue, cross up into fatigue met with, oh, this is a cross down. This is a meandering around here. You had cross up into cross down immediately. So depends, but overall the cross up and cross down signals of the baselines do provide you with some logic to think about for, does this continue? Mighty massive move to the upside on the 3-day. We got 2 days time, so that will leave us on midweek reversal Thursday to see how it closes. The reason why I have this here at approaching 46k is we had some daily close levels here, and that 2 billion is down there on the liquidity. What? Yeah, here, this was a springboard of sorts from the point of control and all these wicks from these daily levels. So I was seeing now that's the super trend here, 8.3% away on the daily time frame. Daily time frame had the cross up event of the baseline down here at 40,900, and then we held this range of the point of control and bounced out from there. So does the momentum on the daily still strong, open to the upside, no signs of abating and no price action beneath it, so you're not seeing a potential continuation seeing a possible continuation to the upside on the daily time frame. Looking at the oscillator, money flow and RSI coming up to overbought levels, but the money flow is coming beneath the RSI, meaning people are taking profits on their positions, and this could still see a burst up. The Williams is getting in a heated position here in overbought status. You could still see this drift a little bit higher up to that 50,700 as this gets high. The average of the Williams comes up to the Williams itself to meet with some possible cross down events. Even with you get the cross down, you could meander in this region for a good 22 days or something and still go higher. So there's no guarantees that we pull back. We could induce shorts the entire way and then just squeeze them more. The halving is 2 months away. Are we going to does this rally just continue into the halving with no pullback whatsoever? Who knows? The overall liquidity to the downside suggests at some point they do some scam wick down to here and then start to reclaim later. I've seen that occur. Don't believe me? Let's go back in time and see where that has happened before, just to keep you on your toes before you get super bullish and notice that the fear and greed is at 79, plus 9 since yesterday. So you're at a pretty high greed level, and the last time we did that at 52,000 here, we sharply pulled back. And not only that, this sharp pullback was a 18% pullback in a day, but most of it was in 10 minutes. This was pretty crazy. So let's go back in time, shall we? And just think about how these things, and the funny thing is when it's pumping, the YouTubers are all like happy, but then when it pulls back, they're like, it's manipulation. Like, let's be real, all of it is manipulation. Money is not real. It's a store of value that people perceive, and it's just all numbers on a chart. Money is just an integer we use to exchange. You could technically rob a bank and get all the money in there if you were so inclined and had a good plan on how to do that and get away with it. So it's not real as much as we believe. So anyway, we are coming up into this region. This was a funny news story because it was all bullish news. I remember everyone was bullish, and then I caught the head and shoulders and the bearish divergence on here. on the daily. You had the money flowing above the RSI here, but this is one of the rare occasions where the RSI came down to it. I remember shorting right there, right where I'm circling. This is before I had my indicator, but yeah, it was massive. And then we came down to a level. I actually trimmed when we consolidated down here, and then the majority took place down in this region. And this is not me wanting to see this necessarily. This is just, you got to remind yourself of the possibilities. So it consolidated down in here, right? And I didn't know that this would have like 18% pullback, more than that. So I had trimmed a majority of my position down here. I was satisfied with that. And then I remember it like in 10 minutes dropped like a huge amount. Yeah, 10, 15, 20. Yeah, it was, the majority is basically dead. And then it had a V-shaped of most of it. So it came all the way down like 12% in 20 minutes. So when you get this open interest at 4 billion at all-time highs, be careful of all these longs opening, longs opening, longs opening, longs opening, shorts closing, shorts closing, shorts closing, shorts closing, and liquidations to the shorts. Eventually they will liquidate the longs. That's just the cycle of nature. You eat both sides. Pac-Man has to eat both sides. So let's go back to where we are in the moment. So let's go to the daily, make our descent some more. Okay, so the daily time frame is strong on the baselines. We're coming to the lower time frame. Which lower time frame? Well, the 22 hour, my friends. The 22 hour is a broken, unsyncopated time frame. Everything's in a 24-hour framework, so you have 22, 2, 22, 2, 22, 2. So this broken time frame kind of shows you hidden pools of probabilities that are not easily disguised by the market maker. We found this to be true and saw these probability resets, like the stochastic reset here on February 6th. This was resetting the stochastic nicely on the 22, while the daily was most likely overbought. So you could have gotten in on this probabilistic juice. Also, the money flow coming beneath the RSI here was the suggestive move of the money flowing back up, up, up to the RSI. Now you're getting the money flowing above the RSI, and you're on the opposite end of the spectrum. So this money flow above the RSI suggests we could come back into the RSI here, as we are both in the red in overbought status. The Williams is also in the overbought status as well, and you're kind of bled less volume than in the last two candles. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 12-hour. Cloud baselines also at the above point of the price. So if you start to fail these baselines, you could see a cascading event. We will see and keep you abreast either way. Coming to the 12-hour time frame. Shout out to everyone here. Let's go see how everyone's doing. Thank you for stopping in to the stream. Consider hitting that like and subscribe if you're new. And feel free to ask any questions in the comments. 6.6% away from this super trend level and the point of control over here at 48. Okay, coming to the 12-hour cloud still pointed to that 2 o'clock direction, strong upwards momentum. You're outside the price channel on the 12-hour time frame. Do we start to pull back to the 12-hour cloud? You have some points of control here in purple down at that 47.3 from the weekend. Do we come back and clear out some of the weekend longers and come down to that 47 area at some point? We have just a reminder, we have news events. Always keep abreast of the news. Forexfactory.com, you can see the red news coming inbound inflation expectations for New Zealand, Japan, Germany. You have a lot of world economic red folders inbound. Mainly today, pre-market, you have the CPI for America. This is going to be the volatility that comes in prior to New York. So prior to New York, watch out for some inbound volatility. So you could be seeing some stuff like this, and it would not surprise me to see a huge spike and pull back 7%, and people be like, what happened? It's like, news happened. News is a catalyst for the liquidity grabs. So coming to the 6 hour. Oh, I think we forgot to look at the oscillator for the 12. I think we did, but you have the money flow beneath the RSI. The money flow beneath the RSI suggestive of the money flowing back up. As we get fatigued, though, does this put in some bearish divergence? Let's see. So you're getting higher high, slightly higher high, basically C level. You're at even Steven levels on the 12 hour. So if this RSI is at class C bearish divergence, then you could be seeing this pull back and becoming tweezer top wick if this sells off into this zone. Even if it comes up to here and sells off in the next 12 hours, you have 11 hours, and that would put you at the CPI close. For this 12-hour candle close will be very important. Does this RSI come down to the money flow, or does the money flow go up to it? Starting to get gassed on the Williams, everything in the red. So does it give you a little bit of a pullback? Let's see the 6 hour. Well, it depends on how many shorts are opening to the longs. Once again, reminder, the greed is up to 79, so everyone feeling cocky about their trades and longing stuff. So most likely everyone is in the alts too. We're looking at the alt space as coming up into this gap. Now we got reclaimed to 519 billion. Do we come up to that 538 region? We bounced off that 706 trapdoor. We call it the access granted to the upside from the bullish trend base fib. Total getting a reclaim of the one, or we're saying coming up to this 1382 yesterday, and we did. So we could consolidate here at this Fibonacci region and see what we do. This was total. We're going to come back for that in a bit. We're just looking at the 6 hour here. 6 hour time frame. The 6 hour time frame is, you had this burst of energy in that 6 hours from the New York session, chilled out in the after lunch candle close area, hanging out in that 49k region with a doji indecision. Do we get the cross up event on the baselines here for the 6 hour, or do we wick on down? You have 5 hours on this candle. This will put you around London time. This is why we like the 6 hour, because the 6 hour lines up with London and New York. 12 hour as well. So all of these candle time frames are back tested to be very important to watch their close. All right. So if you, and this is why the oscillators tune themselves to that. All right, so you got the money flow beneath the RSI, suggestive of another money flow burst. Although when you start to get gassed in this manner, does the RSI come down to that? Does the money flow up to this, or is it the rare occasion where the RSI comes down to this? If it comes down, that would be because you have bearish divergence. Do we have it? Not quite on the 6 hour, so we'll see. Everyone's trying to snipe a top though, so be very careful. The more shorts that keep entering, the more they have ammunition to squeeze some more. That's what we said, be careful of this 236. We were saying if you come back down, which we did, watch how we react and close candles at the 236 level. Do we hold this 236? If so, we're going higher, and sure enough we did. What's up? Hi. So the 6 hour is 4 hour also in the same state, getting the money flow beneath the RSI, suggestive of a money flow insertion to the upside. If it follows the regular pattern, money flowing up to the RSI. Getting a triple top on the Williams getting gas to the ceiling, while the 4 hour stochastic took off yet again. So does the 4 hour continue beyond this 50 region, or does it bring the RSI on down to it? We have to go to the lower time frame for this, hourly. Okay, so here's where you're starting to see something interesting. So on the hourly time frame, you're making a higher high while you're making a lower high on the RSI. Let me go ahead and make sure this is visible. Like that. So you're making a lower high on the oscillator, higher high on price. This is bearish divergence on the RSI. Do you start to see a little bit of an hourly pullback? Hourly bearish divergence not as strong as the higher time frame one, so you'd need to see this locking in on higher time frames. However, on the hourly time frame, you're starting to see a potential fatigue of the baseline here. In the next few hours, you're also getting the 5 time frames oversold on or overbought on the stochastic array here. Read about that in the description. And then do we start to, whoops, I forgot to turn this on. And so do we start to see some of this pullback on the 5 time frame idea? All right, so you got the baseline starting to fail on the hourly. Does this start to turn into a cross down event? Yesterday we were seeing the cross down event in our live stream here, talking about a pullback. We got that pullback to the 236, so it doesn't mean it's a massive entry zone, but we could see a little bit of a pullback into these regions of some of these vectors that were manipulated to the upside. Let's go take a look once again at the liquidity to put it into context. The context being 49,300 has about 269 million. Granted, you have that same amount up to 50,600. So coming up to this 50,007 confluence region has the same amount as coming to 49,300. So the 49,300 daily support level here. You could come down to this, you could come up to here. We could do both. This is basically a range of liquidity that it is possible to aim at. The super trend on the hourly is bullish and coming up with the cloud here. Do we get a pullback to that super trend? Let's go ahead and expand this to the weekly. Once again, you got that spike down there at 40,004. Do we come down to that level? $40,005 has that 47 million up there, so you could squeeze it some higher. Let's go ahead and go to the lower time frame, turn on the liquidity, and then expand to the broader markets. Okay, liquidity. This is a perpetuals API indicator, so you can see where the open interest is opening their trades with the dots. 100xers here, 100xers there for the longs and shorts. There's a pool of shorts up here. Do we kind of squeeze up into the 100x? There's a 6 million character up here, $6 million at this level at 50,003, just above that level. Do we come up to that and then start to come back down into that 49,300 level? 49,003, 420 I think it was. Okay. This is an open position one, and here's another one which looks into the contracts so we can see exactly who's buying and selling. This is also a link in the description for more, so you're getting some Bitcoin being bought up here. These are most likely shorts being market buy into here. Some longs peeling off as well, but you get 28 Bitcoin buying up here. That's most likely shorts being popped. And you're seeing 26 Bitcoin. So you're getting positive delta, 500 Bitcoin being bought up in this region. You have a auction zone gap volume imbalance here that it could be reacting off of and then coming lower. And yeah, if we look at that coming up into this region, makes sense. All right, let's go to the broader markets so far. Oops. Take a look. Once again, we gave you a little bit of a sneak peek. Yesterday, we were taking some trades in the Discord with we took this long off the bottom rope here. Don't believe me? Well, we were putting it out before it happened here. Where was that? Down here. Prior to the open, we were seeing it. We did this during the Asian session too, but then also during New York. During New York, we were looking at a manipulation region. Wait, where was that? Here. So we took some in the Asian session with London, but also, where was that? Down here? Yeah. All right, so we were looking at a manipulation down to that 810 region, and it then met our expectation and came down to that level and then bounced off of the open, and that was the low for the day for NASDAQ. And so this the low for the impulse that led to basically this 400 tick move to the upside. So we were able to capitalize. We capitalized personally, frugally on this much, like 150 ticks. But yeah, it still was the low for that day. And then we also caught the short idea off the top rope here. How did we do that? Well, we also had some nukes on our indicator as we came up to a region. We were seeing the nukes up in here. Where was that? So we had nukes up at the top rope here and started to sell off at that point on ES2. So if you trade indices, that's cool. So what are we gonna do? We violated this gap and converted it, and we're possibly coming lower for NASDAQ. Once again, the CPI today will be the guide, and we can delete this because it played out nicely. It's a nice deviation setup. And then if we look at the larger narrative, where we have this impulse retrace 236 honored, we came above that, access granted to the upside to the 1 level. We came above, manipulated, came back down to the 706. Does the 706 deny access to the upside or acceleration to the downside? This is another key level to watch. We can also look at that in terms of points of control. So we have a point of control down here at 862 and 848 for some volume nodes here. Okay. So you have some points of control down here in these regions that we could come down to continue into some of the liquidity. We will see. Even further, you have some points of control down here that have not been touched. So they call them naked points of control for this region here. All of this liquidity down below, possibly for the taking. If you start to violate these highs, then you start coming back into this region. If not, you're still bullish. Even if you come down to this level, you could still bounce out and do some funny shenanigans for NQ. Dixie. So the Dixie, we were looking also prior to the open for this manipulation play to the upside. We were putting out the idea of this coming into this region before it even got there. When it was back here in the open time, we were doing it on the live, I believe, and then it came down to that level exactly, came up to the deviation, and now we are possibly going higher. It all depends on what the news of all the other economic, Germany and Canada, how they intertwine with the CPI, but looks like it's bullishly setting up to come up to this region. You have that 105 confluence zone. Not married to the idea, but it looks like it could come up to that level. You have some points of control and points of interest down here if it all fails and comes down to this too. That's for the Dixie. Okay, so the Dixie holding the range, possibly going higher while a lot of the indices pulled back, S&P and so on, also reacting off that deviation level. So do we see a little bit of a pullback here for ES as well? Everything kind of gassed out. Do they pull back or just continue to rip the shorts, new ones? Should be an interesting day, to say the least, for everything. Gonna have a lot of volatility, I feel. Maybe on both sides. Maybe you come up to here and go down. Who knows? Well, you have your levels, ladies and gents. I'm not going to try to call a top, so I'm just putting out the math for you. If you feel if it lines up with your ideas, then take a shot. Simple. That's all you can do. So you got that 15-minute manipulation stop hunt here. Do we get the cross up off the 15 and continuation higher? Money flow beneath the RSI on the 15-minute. We already talked about that 100x liquidity. Do they come up to that level and then start to make it lower? Remember, we're in the Asian session. Asian session generally pumps to dump. Rarely does the Asian session pump ad infinitum. It normally does a fake out, comes down to test the lows for London. So does London bring us lower, and then we consolidate in here for New York and then decide what to do to go lower or higher. That is where we go. I'm not going to try to make what the CPI is going to do, but pulling back into some of the billions would make sense if we start to fatigue out. If everyone expects a region, they might do it shy to avoid people catching the short. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, folks. So thank you for coming on into live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day, and I'll do the same, bringing the fire. They're actually the